Welcome to the Whiskey Trail. It's Whiskey Wednesday and we're here for another whiskey review. Today we're going to be reviewing Jameson Caskmates. Jameson Caskmates, of course everyone's tried Jameson, but Caskmates is what they released a good few years ago, back in 2014. One man had an idea. He's a craft brewer based down in Cork, near Middleton, where Jameson comes from, where it's made. And he had an idea and went to one of the guys in Middleton, Dave Quinn, and they had a pint, as all good ideas where they start is over a pint in a pub, in an Irish pub. And he said, well look, I have this really good beer, this Shandon Stout, kind of a bit like Guinness. It's a dark beer, and Shandon Stout was one of Shane's favourite brews. Shane had been brewing beer in Cork. It actually started back in 1998. And he had this idea that he wanted to get some Jameson barrels and put his Shandon Stout in there and see what happened. He thought that aging process, or that flavour that the Jameson would impart would go really well with his stout. So Dave Quinn listened over the pint and thought it was a great idea. So he kind of said, well, why don't we just swap the cask? So that's when the idea of Caskmates was born. You give me the cask, I'll age my beer, I'll give it back to you, and you can get your whiskey aged in some craft beer casks. So this was the first edition to come out, the Stout edition. Not quite sure why they don't have Franciscan Well, which is the name of Shane's brewery, on this. Some of the others do name the brewery on it. Someone out there, if you know, maybe mention in the comments below, tell me if you know the reason why. But Shandon Stout is a beautiful stout. One of my favourite bars in the city, the Rag Trader in Dublin City. You can go in there and get a pint of Shandon Stout, because you can't find it everywhere. Or you can pop down to Cork and pop into the distillery. They have a bar there. Ask Shane for a pint. I don't know if you'll find the barrel aged stout there anymore, but you certainly find probably a bottle of Jameson on the shelf and a pint of Shandon Stout, and you can get your own chaser going and play with the flavours on the site there. Franciscan Well is named after, the brewery is named after a well that was on the site that dates back, I think, some like 1219 or something like that. Shane, if you're listening out there, can confirm that date for me. But the water in that well was meant to have restorative or healing properties, so people used to come from miles around to taste the water, or to draw water from the well. So he's on a really historical site and making some really great beer. I have one of their pint glasses here celebrating 20 years. So this was back in 1998. So 20 years of great craft beer. If you're lucky enough to try the Chieftain IPA, I love Irish Pale Ales. Try that. Get one of Shane's glasses and give it a whirl. So back to the whiskey. Caskmates here is a blended Irish whiskey. It's bottled at 40%. I'm going to pop it open now. Why not have a taste? I'm using a Glencairn glass here because I find this quite a mellow whiskey. The flavours are there, but they're quite mellow and you have to dig into it. And I find the shape of the Glencairn glass helps focus those flavours. So I'm going to give it a little swirl and watch those tears go down around the glass. It's a lovely amber colour. I think you can get a little bit of that dark stout colour coming through there when you compare it to the original Jameson. And when you nose it, it's a different animal. You still get that vanilla sweetness that comes from the bourbon casks they use to age Jameson in. You get a little bit of that cherry sweetness, but what's coming in straight from the cask is a bit of a coffee flavour. I drink a lot of coffee, and that lovely bitter sweetness that's mixed together with the sweet Jameson whiskey and the bitterness of the stout, and also that hoppy flavour. It's on the nose, but I'm going to try it now. I'm going to try a sip. And it's there on the palate. Oh, it's delicious. What I also get at the back when you drink it is that dark chocolate note coming in. It's like, if you've ever tried really dark chocolate, like 75-80% dark chocolate, and you get that little bit of dryness at the back of your palate, you get that here on the whiskey as well. It's absolutely delicious. When I say blended Irish whiskey, a lot of people, when you think of blends, you think of malts. So malt comes from one distillery, and then grain whiskey. This does have a grain whiskey element to it, so it comes off a column still. but it also has a percentage of single pot still Irish whiskey, which is a type of whiskey that comes from Ireland that's unique to Ireland. That's a mixture of malted and unmalted barley in the mash bill, and they use that in Jameson Irish whiskey in a small percentage. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's around 30%. But if anyone's had tried Powers whiskey, which we'll be reviewing on another day, crack open a bottle of Powers and they have up to 70% pot still Irish whiskey in that bottle, so it's a lot spicier, a little bit of a creamier whiskey. But I think the reason Jameson is so popular is that it doesn't challenge people's flavour. Like, it's so easy. It's easy drinking. That's a stereotype of Irish whiskey, which I don't particularly like, because there are easy drinking whiskies like Jameson Caskmates, which is absolutely beautiful, really easy, mellow, simple flavours. A bit more complex than your original Jameson, but there's a vast array of Irish whiskies out there. You can go anything from Redbreast 12-year-old, maybe try something from Walsh whiskey, which is another blended Irish whiskey, but has a different mash bill, which we'll review again on another day, or Pierce Lyons, which is something unique that just came out there recently. So I'm a big fan of Caskmates. Let me know what you think. Write your comments down below. Before I mention it, we're going to be reviewing this Friday on our Friday series. We're going to be reviewing Jameson and going into the history of how Jameson came about, how the distillery started, who started it up, and why the green bottle, how that came about, which is something I'm not sure many people have covered. So until then, I'm going to sit back and sip this whiskey. Grab a bottle, let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the channel, and pop over to Instagram if you are looking for some whiskey. We are giving away a couple of bottles of whiskies this week on Instagram. So for now, thanks for listening. Sláinte, until we meet again. Cheers. Delicious.